Discover 5 amazing secrets to heartwarming self-love that will transform your life forever. The diner hummed with the sounds of clattering dishes and familiar chatter, a comforting backdrop to Jess's day. She wiped the sweat from her brow, her hands accustomed to the warmth of steaming coffee pots and the sizzle of pancakes on the griddle. Her heart was heavy, though, weighed down by the turbulence of the world outside. The factory, the lifeblood of Maplewood, was rumored to be downsizing. With her children, Lily and Ben, relying on her, Jess felt the pressure mount with every cup she served. "More coffee, Jess?" An older gentleman asked with a smile, but she barely registered his words. Her mind drifted to dreams of colorful crafts, trinkets that could light up her kitchen wall. She imagined tiny ceramic birds dancing in the sun, maybe even a whimsical sign that read, "Home Sweet Home." But dreams felt like luxuries, and those were just out of reach. Her heart ached, thinking about her parents' voices echoing in her mind. "Stay close to home, Jess. That's what matters." It stung, filling her with a sense of inadequacy, as if she had gridlocked herself in a world without hope. Yet, the diner was a half-second escape from the grasp of her reality, a loved and worn page in a book with no ending. Then, like a gentle breeze turning a page, Charlie, her retired neighbor, shuffled in. A man with eyes that sparkled with kindness. He often shared stories over coffee, pulling at the tether of hope she was slowly losing. "You've got a gift, Jess," he said one day, leaning in like he held a precious secret. "You have to believe in it." His words wrapped around her like a warm blanket. For the first time in years, she felt something shift inside her, a flicker of self-love. Jess signed up for a small business class at the community college, her heart racing. But walking into that classroom, she felt out of place. Her waitress uniform barely spilled any glamour, and her classmates' skeptical gazes felt like tidal waves crashing down. What could she possibly bring to the table? The whispers seemed to say. Each assignment felt like lifting a heavy weight, yet she kept pushing through, refusing to be defined by faded dreams. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Each field market stall chipped away at her spirit. But as Jess spread her creations out on shabby tables, her heart raced with hope. At a local fair, everything changed when she caught a glimpse of a familiar face. An old friend wandered over, recognition sparking like electricity. "These are incredible," she exclaimed, eyes wide. Enthusiasm rippled through the crowd, and suddenly, her craft sparked interest beyond her dreams. With every word of encouragement, Jess felt a swell of pride, not just in her work but for the grit she'd shown, resilience wrapped in love for her kids. She wasn't just a mother or waitress anymore, she was becoming a beacon of hope. But as the cool autumn air whispered promises of change, looming layoffs darkened her thoughts. The world tilted and Jess held her breath, standing at the precipice of uncertainty. Would her newfound strength be enough? She clenched her fists, feeling the tremors of fear but also the warmth of her dreams, willing to face what lay ahead. What if this time, she could hold on to her dreams instead of letting them slip away like dust in the wind? The leaves crunched under Jess's feet as she made her way home, the scent of fall thick in the air. She clutched a small box of handmade ornaments to her chest, her mind racing with thoughts of the fair, how one kind word lit the spark within her, igniting joy she hadn't felt in years. "Lily. Ben." She called out as she opened the door, the familiar warmth of their shared home wrapping around her. The boys' laughter echoed from the living room, a sweet sound that melted her anxieties for a moment. She set the box on the kitchen table and went to find them. "Mom!" Ben shouted, running toward her with his arms open wide. His hug was a jolt of energy, and for a brief instant, all the worries melted away. Lily followed, her long pigtails swinging as she joined her brother's embrace. Jess smiled, heart swelling at the sight of them, her reasons for pushing through. "Guess what? We made a fort." Lily beamed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Yeah. And it's the best one ever. You gotta see it," Ben added, bouncing on his toes. Jess laughed, following them into the living room. A blanket draped over the couch created a cozy hideout, lit by a string of twinkling fairy lights. The side was their secret world, a place where imagination ruled and worries faded. For a moment, she wished she could join them in their play, forget reality, and lose herself in the magic of childhood. Instead, she took a seat at the edge and watched, heart full. They were her treasure, far more valuable than any craft she could sell. But as their laughter filled the room, shadows of the impending layoffs crept into her mind. She pretended everything was fine, smiled through her creeping fears, but she knew the weight of the world was still heavy on her shoulders. "Can you help me? I want to make something too." Lily suddenly piped up, dragging Jess from her thoughts. "Of course, sweetheart. What do you want to create?" Jess replied, shifting gears. "We can make decorations for our fort," Lily suggested, her face lighting up with the excitement of doing something together. As they gathered supplies, Jess felt a rush of warmth spilling over her fears. They worked side by side, laughter punctuating the air as they began crafting makeshift decorations from the materials Jess had collected over the years. Each snip of the scissors felt exhilarating, and for the first time in a while, she believed in the possibility of happiness. When dinner time rolled around, the aroma of pasta filled the kitchen, blending with the remnants of their craft session. Ben readied the table, feathers in his hair from their crafting, while Lily arranged the makeshift decorations above them, transforming the space into their own whimsical escape. As they sat down to eat, Jess couldn't help but reflect on how these moments were what mattered: time spent together. Yet, an underlying edge of uncertainty still prickled her thoughts. Could they carry this happiness into a future clouded by doubt? After dinner, she cleared the table, but instead of drowning in chores, her phone buzzed with a notification. A message from Charlie appeared, sparking a glimmer of hope. "Just saw your art at the fair. You should do more shows. You can make this work." His words echoed the encouragement she so desperately needed. Could she really turn this flicker of passion into something bigger? What would that even look like? Questions without answers muddled her thoughts as she stared at her creations, a battle brewing inside her. And then, just as the weight of uncertainty pressed down again, Lily's soft voice broke the silence. "Mom, can you teach us how to make those bird decorations tomorrow?" Jess felt a grin spread across her face, as a small beacon of hope pushed through the dark. "Absolutely. We'll make a whole flock." But deep down, beneath the excitement, doubt still lingered. Would she have the strength to rise to the occasion when everything felt like it was unraveling? As she hugged her kids close, Jess realized she had a decision to make. What if believing in her dreams meant risking everything? Would she dare to face both the terrifying unknown and the possibility of joy waiting just around the corner? The next morning, sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow over the remnants of dinner from the night before. Jess stirred her coffee, the familiar aroma comforting and grounding. The thought of what lay ahead today brought a flutter of excitement to her chest. She had promised Lily and Ben a creative adventure, and she was determined to make it special. "Mom, can we start now?" Ben's voice echoed from the living room, nearly bouncing off the walls with exuberance. "Just a minute, buddy. Let me grab the supplies," Jess called back, her heart warming at their eagerness. She gathered the last few items, a few colors of paint, some old newspapers, and a couple of old bird feeders she had painted years ago. As she piled everything onto the kitchen table, she could hardly keep the smile from her face. Lily dashed into the room, her pigtails bouncing. "I can't wait to make the birds. Are we going to paint them bright colors?" Her eyes sparkled with anticipation. "Absolutely. The brighter, the better," Jess replied, her spirits lifting with her children's enthusiasm. They moved to the table, each grabbing a bird feeder, ready to transform them into something magical. As they worked together, Jess realized the joy of working side by side. The table soon became an explosion of color: pink, blue, yellow, and green. Ben giggled as he splattered paint on his fingers, declaring himself an artist. Lily sang softly, her cheerful little tune weaving through the air as she painstakingly brushed her bird feeder. Time slipped away. The laughter and chatter filled the space, drowning out the fears that had clung to Jess like a fog. Every brushstroke seemed to paint over the doubt and worry. Each silly joke Ben cracked pushed the sense of impending doom a little further away. "Look, Mom. Mine's the prettiest," Ben declared, holding up his painted creation, the colors a chaotic yet joyful mix. "It is beautiful, just like you," Jess replied, bending down to give him a quick hug. As she pulled back, she looked at Lily, her heart soaring. "How about yours?" With a proud smile, Lily turned her painted feeder for Jess to see. "I named mine Sunshine. It's for the birds. Perfect name for a perfect birdhouse," Jess beamed back. As they finished up, Ben suddenly turned serious. "Mom, can we hang them outside? We can watch the birds come to our fort." Jess's heart sank for a brief moment. The reality of their outside world crept back in: layoffs, bills, uncertainty. But looking at her children, seeing their bubbles of innocence, it struck her that this was their moment. "Of course. Let us decorate our fort outside and hang them together." The words left her mouth before doubt could catch up with her. They made their way outside, dragging the freshly painted bird feeders. The fort stood strong under the blue sky, radiating joy. They tied twine around the feeders and hung them from branches above the fort, turning their little hideaway into a vibrant sanctuary. As they stepped back to admire their work, Jess felt a shift within her. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't about finding a way to make life perfect, but about embracing the imperfections that made every moment special. "Look at our little bird world," Lily exclaimed, clapping her hands together. "Yes. And now we have to keep it safe, just like our family," Jess added, a poignant reminder of the bond they shared. She glanced at her phone again, half expecting another message from Charlie. But nothing. Just silence. Yet instead of feeling defeated, she found strength in the laughter that filled the space around her. "Mom." Ben's voice broke into her thoughts again. "Can we paint more tomorrow? Like for a whole day?" "Absolutely. We can make a whole flock," Jess said, her heart swelling with renewed hope. But even as she embraced that thought, deep down, she wondered. What if tomorrow brought challenges she wasn't ready for? What if the layoffs would crush her dreams? Would they be strong enough to weather that storm, or would the fort that brought them joy become a reminder of everything they were afraid to lose? Just then, a faint rustle in the leaves caught her attention. Could it be a bird searching for its new home? Jess held her breath, sensing that perhaps today might be the start of something beautiful, but will the unexpected visitor bring comfort or more uncertainty? Jess held her breath, the world around her quieted under the weight of expectation. With her heart racing, She looked towards the soft rustle of leaves. A flash of color darted through the branches, and suddenly, a small bluebird landed on one of the feeders, its beak poised over the vibrant colors they'd all just painted. "Mom! Look!" Ben's eyes were wide, sparkling with wonder as he pointed towards the bird. Lily gasped, clapping her hands in delight. "Wow!" Jess breathed, allowing herself to lean into the moment. The little bird hopped around the feeder, checking the new addition to its territory as if it were the most exciting discovery in the world. "See! It loves our art," whispered Lily, her voice laced with awe. They stood still, absorbing the simple yet profound joy of the scene before them. In that instant, Jess felt the worries of yesterday fade away. The looming cloud of uncertainty that had crept into her heart began to lift. Instead of focusing on what she feared might happen, she embraced the beauty of what was happening now. She felt a warmth in her chest, a flicker of hope sparked by the realization that sometimes, simplicity holds the answers. "Can we name him?" Ben suggested, bouncing excitedly on his feet. "Of course. How about Sky?" Lily replied, her face beaming. "Sky is perfect," Jess echoed, her own smile growing wider, the laughter of her children resonating like music. As they continued to watch, the birds seemed to embody everything they needed at that moment. Their experiment in creativity had birthed not just colorful bird feeders but a connection one to each other, to the world outside, and perhaps even to something larger that they couldn't yet understand. "Hey, how about we make a little sign for our fort?" Jess ran her fingers through her hair, the idea buzzing in her mind. "We could decorate it too. Let everyone know Sky has a home here." "Yes. And we can write 'No cats allowed,'" Ben added, giggling at his own humor. Jess chuckled, picturing their quirky sign hanging above the fort. "All right. Let us get to work." They gathered paper and markers, enthusiasm coursing through their little team as they brainstormed ideas together. Jess felt gratefulness wash over her, realizing that these tasks so small yet full of life were creating memories that would last a lifetime. Moments like these reminded her that her family was still intact, still vibrant, despite the storm clouds that seemed to loom overhead. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, the golden light wrapped around them warmly. They painted the sign with laughter, their fingers sticky with glue and paint. Jess caught a glimpse of Ben's concentration as he carefully wrote the letters, his tongue poking out in fierce determination. It made her heart swell. But even as joy enveloped her, shadows from earlier clung to the edges of her thoughts. How would they handle the bills that kept piling up? Her heart ached with the pressure of adult responsibilities, conflicting deeply with the simplicity of the moment. "Jess," a voice interrupted her worried thoughts. It was Lily, her eyes shining almost too brightly. "Do you think Sky will come back?" Jess paused, contemplating the future filled with choices and uncertainty. "I hope so, sweetheart. I think if we keep this place special, he will want to come back." As they finished their sign, Jess felt a flicker of resolve. Maybe it didn't matter if Sky returned tomorrow or if the challenges ahead seemed insurmountable. For tonight, they had painted their world with joy and hope. However, just as they stepped back to admire their work, a sudden gust of wind rattled the trees, and the sign wobbled precariously. Jess's stomach dropped. What if it blows away? She thought, anxiety creeping back in. Just then, chaos erupted. A larger bird darted out from behind the fort, wings flapping aggressively as it swooped past them and gave chase to their little bluebird. "Sky!" Ben yelled, his face falling. Jess's heart raced again, but she felt the urge to protect this moment rise within her. What if the unexpected chased away their joy? Would they find a way to hold on to it, against all odds? She squeezed her eyes shut for a moment. When she opened them, it was clear. "Let us help Sky," she commanded, her voice steady and filled with determination. In that instant, the winds of doubt shifted. Would they stand together against the winds of uncertainty, or would they let fear chase the joy away? The answer hovered in the air, waiting to be discovered. With a collective shout of determination, Jess and her children rushed toward the chaos unfolding near the feeders. The larger bird, all dark feathers and flat wings, was relentless in its pursuit, diving at poor Sky with a fierce intent. Jess's heart pounded as she mentally calculated the distance between them and the frightened little bluebird. "Ben, grab the bird's seat," she shouted, adrenaline surging. Without missing a beat, her son dove toward their supplies. Lily, wide-eyed but fiercely brave, trailed behind her mother, trying to keep pace. They needed to distract the angry bird. If the monster left, Sky might return. "Stay low," Jess whispered urgently to her kids, and they huddled behind the fort, peering out from behind the wooden planks while Ben shook the bag of seeds. "Come on, Sky. You're safe," Lily yelled, her tiny voice vibrating with both hope and fear. Jess watched as Sky darted under the nearby bush, seeking refuge from the ruckus. It tugged at her heart to think of the small creature feeling so small and lost. "Ben, toss some seeds over here," Jess instructed, feeling a surge of momentum building as she clutched her own handful of seeds. He followed her cue, his small arm throwing the seeds with a dedication that made her heart swell again. The seeds landed with a soft patter, bright specks contrasting against the verdant grass. For a moment, the chaos paused as the larger bird circled the area, watching their small diversion with confusion. In that fleeting instant, Jess saw those shimmers of blue peek out from under the bush. Sky, timid and aware of the danger, edged closer. "See? It's working," Jess breathed, the tension in her chest beginning to ease. The kids held their breath, eyes glued to the scene unfolding just feet away. With each careful step Sky took, Jess felt warmth radiate through her. It was a blend of love and hope, of the realization that sometimes, all it took was a little courage and a big heart to rally for something precious. Then, just as Sky seemed ready to retreat toward the seeds, the larger bird dove down again, intent and angry. "No!" Jess yelled, her heart racing back into panic as she heard the collective gasp from her kids. "Mom, what do we do?" Ben's voice trembled, fear creeping into his words as he tightened his grip on the birdseed bag. "Ben, hold on. We're not giving up." Jess's heart pounded in rhythm with the rush of emotions that swirled around her. "We have to protect him." Without thinking, Jess leapt from behind the fort, arm outstretched to wave her hands. "Hey! Over here!" she called loudly, hoping to draw the attention away from Sky. The feeling of the cool breeze on her face wasn't nearly as chilling as the fear coiling in her stomach. The dark bird's eyes flicked toward Jess, momentarily distracted. In a flash, Sky took advantage, darting from the brush and straight toward the seeds. Jess could see the little bird's spirit surfacing again, determination glimmering as it chomped down on the seeds. "Yes!" Lily exclaimed, her voice bursting out like the fireworks they saved for the 4th of July. But Jess's relief was short-lived. She could feel the presence of the larger bird looming dangerously close once more. It was a race against time, and it felt like everything was hanging by a thread. "Get inside. Now!" Jess hollered, urgency firing through her veins. They scrambled back toward the safety of the fort, eyes wide with the fragile hope that Sky might find its way out of danger. As Jess peered through the slats, she focused all her energy on the vibrant blue flash of feathers, praying Sky would be okay. But she could feel the darkness creeping in again, the uncertainty threatening to suffocate the joy they had worked so hard to build. Would they truly defend their happiness against the odds? The question hung over her, mingled with the tension of the chase, and she realized that from within the storm, they could create their own sun. Then, just as the wind rustled the branches ominously, the situation took another twist. Suddenly, a structure nearby began to groan. Something shifted soundly overhead. "What now?" Ben whispered, eyes darting upwards, panic curling at the edges of his voice. Jess's heart dropped as she watched a branch, once peaceful in their little world, appear to sway dangerously close. What if everything they had worked for and everything they feared came crashing down at once? She grasped the moment, determined to keep her family intact even as chaos threatened to overwhelm them again. "Hold on tight, everyone," she exclaimed, adrenaline surging within her. Would love and courage carry them through one last storm? Jess's heart raced as the low creaking of the branch grew louder, the stress in the air thickening like heavy fog. She could see it trembling, its bark rough and ancient. Would it snap? Would it fall? The world around her narrowed, every sound muffled except for the frantic beating of her heart. "Get back!" she shouted, ushering Ben and Lily deeper into the fort. They huddled close together, their little bodies trembling. She crouched low, trying to shield them both. The larger bird was still circling above, its keen eyes searching for any sign of movement. Jess wished for strength, for some kind of magic that could protect them all. The weight of the tension felt almost suffocating. Jess peered out just in time to see Sky pecking at the seeds they had scattered on the ground, blissfully unaware of the brewing danger. How simple it looked from a distance. Just a little bird, fighting for its meal. Mom Lily's voice was barely above a whisper, fear flickering in her large eyes. "What if it doesn't leave?" Jess inhaled sharply, trying to gather her racing thoughts. "It will, honey," she reassured, though doubt crept into her own heart. We need to be loud. The bigger bird will have to tell we're here." With a quick nod, she picked up a stick from the dirt. "On the count of 3, we yell." The kids blinked up at her, wide-eyed and breathless. 1, 2, 3. They shouted together, voices rising in a chaotic symphony. "Go away. Leave us alone." It felt good to make some noise, to disrupt the silence and claim their space. Jess felt her pulse pounding in her ears, the power of their unity ebbing through her. The dark bird hesitated mid-flight, its wings frozen momentarily. Jess watched as it shifted its gaze from her back to Sky, its eyes narrowing, assessing the threat. This was a chance. "Louder," Jess urged, and they charged forward again with their cries, but suddenly, a loud crack pierced through the air. The branch they had been watching fell, accompanied by a flurry of leaves and debris. In that instant, Sky flapped its wings, startled into flight and taking off into the open sky, just as the larger bird swooped in for a desperate attack. Time seemed to slow. Jess sprang into action, her instinct roaring. "Run!" She shot past the remnants of the fallen branch toward the direction Sky had taken. Fear gripped her. What if she couldn't reach the little bird in time? What if this moment of chaos swallowed them whole? Ben and Lily remained close, their small feet following her every command, their faces lit with determination. Together they sprinted, wild and fearless, through the remnants of their tiny world, chasing after the hope that floated just above them, teetering in the balance. But as they navigated through the broken branches, Jess could see the dark silhouette of the larger bird hovering low, waiting to strike. And there among the branches above, Sky was flapping aimlessly, trying to escape the predator without a clear path. "Sky!" Jess called out, urging the small creature. But her voice felt weak against the powerful drum of uncertainty and wild danger. Suddenly, in a heartbeat, Ben shouted, "Look!" The bushes. He pointed toward a dense cluster of greenery, a potential hiding place for Sky. Jess's heart leaped. This was it. She needed to trust in her instincts not just for Sky but for her family. They were all in this together. With urgency stinging at her heels, Jess sprinted toward the bushes, the children trailing behind her. Would the little bird find solace among the thorns? Would they reach Sky in time? As they barreled into the greenery, Jess felt an electric rush. Love and courage collided with adrenaline, pushing her further into the unknown. She was determined that they wouldn't leave an ounce of hope unspent. Just as they reached the edge, she caught a flash of blue feathers once more, flickering like a small flame. But that flicker danced even closer to the beast overhead, and Jess realized with dread the larger bird was preparing for another dive. Sky! Jess shouted, praying the small bluebird could hear her. The moment hung as if the world held its breath. Would their desperate attempt to shield Sky be enough? And at that very instant, with the stakes higher than ever, Jess saw the dark bird's wings spread wide, gliding menacingly toward them all. What could possibly unfold in this desperate moment? Would they all weather the storm? The air vibrated with urgency, and Jess felt every ounce of her being pull her forward. The giant bird, menacing and powerful, swooped down, its wings beating with a thunderous sound. Jess's heart raced, each pulse whispering, "Protect them. Save Sky. Lily, Ben, stay low," she commanded, her voice laced with fear yet determined. The children's eyes mirrored her own panic, but they obeyed her silently, crouching down among the dense foliage. Sky flitted back and forth, lost in the branches, and Jess saw the larger bird clearly now, its beady eyes locked onto the frantic bluebird. "Come on, Sky. Find cover," she urged, desperate for the little creature to recognize the danger. For a moment, she felt unmoored, as if she were watching everything unfold from a distance. The hunter's attention shifted. It began to dive, wings sweeping through the air like dark shadows. Jess's instincts surged, drowning out the rising fear in her chest. "Lily. Ben. We have to distract it." "Like yelling again?" Ben suggested, his voice just above a whisper. "Yes. Yell as loud as you can." Jess nodded. She quickly picked up another stick, gripping it tightly, ready to wave it like a flag of defiance. "On 3. Jess said again. 1, 2, 3. Their voices erupted into the fray, every ounce of fear and resolve pouring out into the open air. "Go away. Leave Sky alone." For a moment, the larger bird hesitated. Its wings faltered, and Jess's heart leaped with hope. She could see Sky darting back and forth still, desperately confused. This was their moment. "Get to the riverbank." Jess pointed toward the distant sound of rushing water beyond the thicket, a thin line of safety. "If we can make it to the water, it'll lose us." Without waiting for a response, she bolted through the underbrush, dodging branches and weeds, the children close behind her. Each step felt like running on thin ice, so precarious. Suddenly, from behind, the furious beating of wings drew near again. A scream pierced the air. The larger bird, enraged by their interference, turned back toward them. Jess risked a glance over her shoulder and felt a chill run down her spine as she saw the massive figure hurtling toward Ben. "Ben, look out!" she shouted, almost in disbelief that she had to say it at all. Time slowed again. Jess lunged forward instinctively, arms outstretched, ready to shield him. But before she could even come close, Sky burst forth from the bushes, chirping wildly. It cut through the tension, a flash of blue racing courageously toward the predator. "Sky!" Jess gasped, fear gripping her heart. What was the tiny bird thinking? In a split second, the larger bird changed direction, its powerful wings cutting through the air toward the little one. Jess felt the breath leave her lungs. It was almost too much, the real danger of what this moment might mean. Then something snapped in Jess. It was her family, her home, her little bird. No! She screamed, wild and desperate. She charged forward, feeling the weight of everything her love, their hope crashing together in a chaotic blend. As she surged ahead, flickers of blue and black filled her vision. Would it be enough? Would they survive this? Just then, everything went still. The sound of the world faded away, leaving only a heartbeat echoing in her ears. Would this moment define their story? Would they win this fight together? As Jess reached the edge of the riverbank, she didn't dare to look back. Instead, she felt the raw intensity of the now caught between danger and the precious glimmer of hope for all that could be ahead. And in that heartbeat of silence, she realized something vital. Time and fate were weaving their own story, and in this moment of confusion and chaos, she had to trust in the journey unfolding around them. What would come next? Would Sky find safety? Would they all make it across together? The questions danced ominously, swirling like leaves in the wind. The river rushed ahead, its waters glistening like liquid glass under the sun's fading light. Jess could hear its roar mixed with the pounding of her heart. She skidded to a halt, feeling the cool mist on her face. Time stretched as she glanced back, desperate to see what would happen next. The fear called in her stomach like a tightening spring. Sky! She called softly, her voice trembling. The little bird had dived bravely into the chaos, and now, as the larger predator loomed nearby, everything felt fragile. Jess's fingers twitched, her body poised to leap back into action whenever she needed to. Lily and Ben caught up, their faces pale. What do we do now? Ben whispered, his wide eyes reflecting the turmoil. Jess steadied herself, a rush of warmth igniting her determination. We have to stay together. When the bird gets closer, we'll make a run for it to the bank. She felt the cool touch of her children's hands in hers, grounding her in the moment. They were a unit, and she would do anything to protect them. But could bravery be enough against sheer force? Sky landed clumsily nearby, chirping frantically. The giant predator had fixed its gaze on the enchanted bluebird, and in that moment, every instinct within Jess screamed, "This is your fight." Sky! Jess urged as she edged closer to the fray, the distant howl of the river urging her on. You can do it. Just stay close to us. But Sky seemed too caught up in its own fear. It flared its tiny wings, darting left and right, taunting the threat. With the flash of color fluttering so boldly, Jess felt a surge of admiration mixed with dread. What if that defiance brought disaster? The larger bird charged again, and Jess's breath caught in her throat. It was time. Now! She shouted, pulling Lily and Ben close as she broke into a run toward the riverbank, each step a pledge of survival. They sprinted, hearts pounding in sync with the muffled beating of wings behind them. Jess risked another glance back at Sky. The tiny bird was now perched just out of reach of the predator's claws, a beacon of resilience, as if it was saying, "You can't have me." But that defiance stirred an unnatural anger within the predator. With a fierce shriek, it veered towards Sky, and into the air it soared, gliding dangerously close to the ground. Run! It was a cacophony of shouts, of urgency that pulled every ounce of adrenaline to the forefront. Jess felt the cold water lapping at her feet as they reached the bank. The river's edge shimmered with promise, its currents alive with determination. Jump! Ben gasped, fear pouring from his voice. Jess didn't pause. She leaped into the water, pulling her children in after her. The frigid water enveloped them, muddy but solid, and as they landed on the rocky riverbed, Jess turned her eyes back to the shore, but something felt wrong. Sky's dazzling sequence of blue was fading into the shadows. The large bird was closing in shockingly fast. Sky! The cry tore through her throat. As Jess's heart ached, her pleading echoed against the thundering roar of the river. Fingers trembling, she launched herself towards the edge, desperate to reach for what mattered most. Around her, water swelled. It felt overwhelming, yet Jess fought through it all, heart racing. Would they make it? As she stood in the current, a greater fear gnawed at her. The reality of its weight bore down on her. What if she couldn't save them all? Then from the corner of her eye, something unexpected happened. Sky, in a bold twist of fate, soared upwards like a vivid comet, calling out to its family, the call of hope lingering in the cool evening air. Jess's heart fluttered with a new resolve. They had to reach the other side. But what if the fight was far from over? Facing the predator and the river itself, would their strength be enough to overcome the odds? What awaited them beyond the bank? The darkness loomed ominously, reflecting both the danger and the uncertainty of what lay ahead. The water churned around them, swirling in a chaotic dance, yet Jess felt a steady warmth coursing through her veins as Sky's cry echoed in her ears. It ignited something fierce and protective within her. She had to keep going for Sky, for Lily, and for Ben. Hold on tight, she yelled, gritting her teeth as the current tugged insistently at their legs. They stumbled forward, water splashing around them, each step heavy with purpose and fear. The river seemed relentless, but Jess's determination burned brighter. Lily's small hand squeezed Jess as tightly. "Mom, I'm scared." Her voice quivered, and Jess could feel the weight of her child's fear like a stone in her heart. Swallowing her own panic, Jess looked down at Lily. "I know, sweetie. Just keep your eyes on the riverbank. We will be okay. We are strong together." Ben, looking back, cried out, "Sky!" His voice cracked, a mix of awe and worry as he pointed toward the wild blue figure still hovering just out of reach of the predator. The larger bird had changed its focus, now flapping its wings angrily, directing its fury towards their beloved Sky. It was as if it wanted to take all hope with it. "Keep going," Jess shouted, urging them onward. Every stride forward felt like a battle against the current, but the instinct to survive pushed them through. Just a little further. Sky darted and weaved, its vibrant feathers spilling bursts of color against the looming gray. The predator swooped closer, a dark shadow in the dusk, a bully threatening the light. As Jess reached out and caught a glimpse of the shore, adrenaline surged through her. The darkness ahead pulsed with an unseen threat. Yet, light flickered in their path, the faint outlines of sticking rocks and tumbled stones beckoned. They were almost there, with their feet no longer sinking into the muddy bottom, their bodies propelled forward as the river sloshed softly around them. "We can do this. Just a few more steps." Jess's voice rose with hope. She felt Ben's grip tighten around her own hand, the trust in his grip anchoring her, pushing her forward. Suddenly, a powerful screech shattered the air. The predator had taken aim at Sky again, diving below just above the water. Jess glanced back, instinctively protective. Sky was evading the danger, but not for long. It was a game of seconds. "Mom!" Ben shouted, panic seeping into his voice again. Jess analyzed the scene. Sky needed them. In that moment, the choice was clear. "We have to help it," she exclaimed, turning back to face the water as the current swirled. "What about us?" Lily's eyes filled with worry. Jess's heart twisted, knowing the risks. "I can't let it face this alone." Her voice was fierce, yet the uncertainty filled her. The love for her children battled with the urge to protect this tiny bird, caught in a desperate struggle. Jess took a deep breath, grounding herself. "We'll distract the big bird. Just trust me." Positioning her kids behind her, she pulled her shoulders back, ready to face the predator. "On my count, throw rocks at it. We'll create noise, something to scare it away." They nodded, determination lighting in Ben's eyes while fear remained threaded through both their faces. 1, 2, 3. They all threw stones towards the giant bird, their small arms reaching with all their strength. Each thud against the water was a defiance against the predator, a plea for safety, but as the bird veered again towards Sky, Jess felt a pull of despair. "Please," she whispered to the universe, the tension hung thick in the air. What would happen next? Would they be able to save Sky and themselves? Then, in a wild, beautiful moment, Sky soared higher, as if defying the very nature of fear. Jess held her breath. What would this display of courage bring? Would it result in triumph or suffering? The story wasn't over yet, and the fight demanded everything they had left. Could Jess's family emerge intact from this tumultuous night? She braced for the storm ahead. The chaos of the river seemed to freeze for a heartbeat as Jess and her kids stood together, a makeshift fortress against uncertainty. The sound of rushing water filled her ears, mixed with the frantic calls of Sky, whose spirit ignited something deep within her. "Sky!" Ben shouted again, his voice trembling. Jess felt her pulse quicken as she glanced back at the fierce predator, dark wings folding ominously against the fading lights. Suddenly, something shifted. Sky flitted up and over Ben's toss of stones, a brave dash of blue against the predator's wrath. The larger bird hesitated, as if caught off guard by this tiny spirit thriving amidst chaos. "Now!" Jess shouted, gripping her children's hands tightly. "Run towards the bank." They sprinted, chaotic and determined, wading through the riverbed toward the glimmering edge where safety beckoned. The stones beneath their feet slid and rolled, but Jess pushed through, fueled by love and hope for her little ones. Lily stumbled but quickly regained her footing. "Mom, what if Sky gets hurt?" Fear laced her voice like shadowed threads. Jess squeezed her daughter's hand tighter. "We're all in this together. We will protect each other, no matter what." As they reached the riverbank, their hearts hammered with fear and determination. Turning back, Jess saw Sky still darting, now defying the predator with each frantic flap. The cries of the bluebird were sharp, filled with a desperate strength that resonated within Jess's heart. "Let us shout for it!" Ben cried, raising his arms high, the boyish bravery igniting a fire within her. "Sky! You can do it!" Jess joined her son, letting her voice ring out against the cacophony around them. Each joyous shout seemed to lend additional strength to Sky. The little bird flared its wings wide, illuminated by the last bits of sunlight, taunting the predator as it swooped dangerously close. Jess felt electricity dance in her veins. The stakes felt impossibly high. "Simon, little buddy!" Jess cheered, yearning for the tiniest creature to triumph against the looming danger. Their voices blended into a chorus of love, spurring Sky onward. Then, in one spectacular moment, Sky soared higher, much higher than anyone anticipated. The predator lunged once more, but this time, it miscalculated. In a magnificent swoop, Sky shot out of one reach, evading the dark figure trying to corner it, diving downward towards the safety of the riverbank where Jess and her kids stood. "Now!" Jess shouted again, breaking through the frenzy. "Run along the bank. Get to safety." With all their might, they dashed, hearts racing as Sky zipped through the air, glowing brighter now as it dodged the menace behind it. Laughing and crying, Lily and Ben felt the weight of both their fears and triumphs in their small chests. Just then, the sound of the water roared anew, and Jess turned to see Sky, nearly at the river's edge, urgency in its small wings. With that flicker of hope driving them, they jeered Sky back with hastened yet tender shouts. The larger bird had missed its mark thwarted. And in that moment of vulnerability, the predator lost interest. It screeched once, then veered away, searching for a lesser target elsewhere. Sky! They all cheered together, collapsing onto the sandy shore, breathless and alive. Jess felt an overwhelming rush of gratitude wash over her. Everything they fought for had not been in vain. Sky landed beside Jess, panting but unharmed. It tilted its head, seemingly reconciling with the bond they now shared. Jess extended a finger towards it, and Sky hopped forward, perching delicately upon her outstretched hand and chirping softly, as if in thanks. As tears streamed down Jess's face, she realized the grit it took to embrace both hope and love amid the storm. Sometimes it boiled down to moments like these, the quiet, delicate connections that forged resilience in the face of fear. Lily and Ben wrapped their arms around Jess tightly, bringing a gentle warmth that staved off the chill of uncertainty. "We did it, Mom!" Lily exclaimed, her voice filled with wonder. "Yes. And we protected Sky, too," Ben added with pride. Jess smiled, her heart swelling with an emotion so immense it felt like a brilliant sunrise breaking through the night. "Together, we are unstoppable." In that instant, she understood that life as unpredictability could be embraced with resilience, that love and courage could sustain them through even the fiercest trials. With hope radiating through her, Jess knew her spirit, like that brave little bird, had been forever transformed. They would navigate whatever lay ahead, strong and unwavering, one day at a time. As they began to pack up and head home, Jess stole one last glance back at the river, where Sky flitted joyfully among the bushes. This was their journey, their story, and it was far from over. With a heart full of dreams and a family by her side, Jess breathed in the promise of tomorrow, knowing they would grow together with every challenge they met. Don't wait not even one more second to share this story with those who need a touch of hope and inspiration. You need to subscribe now to not miss any future tales. Leave a like now to fuel this journey for others to find solace and strength. And comment your thoughts, your feelings about this ending, because your reactions matter. Share this video with at least 5 friends who could use a reminder that together, they can face anything.